Good morning, everyone. Hello there. Welcome to the Plain English webinar. It's the 20th of June, and you're all welcome. It's the day before the summer solstice. Very excited about that. I'm Sean Driver. I'm from the National Adult Literacy Agency. I'll be leading the session. My colleague Derv Ryan is here. Derv is one of our literacy outreach officers. How are you doing today, Derv?
Hi everyone. Yeah, really happy that it's very sunny here in Mayo. So delighted with the weekend starting out like that.
Yeah, we're covering all the bases. I'm in Leash, folks, and Derv is in Mayo. Yeah, spreading out. Okay. So we've got kind of a large group here today, which is wonderful. So we're going to keep admitting people as they come in. Yeah, we'll give it a minute or two before we get started in earnest, but you're all very, very welcome. So like our topic of today is about like creating and designing leaflets and print materials using plain English guidelines. We're going to record the session and then it's going to be available on YouTube afterwards. And you'll also get a link afterwards if you've registered. Yeah. So yeah, that's it. We did a webinar before. When did we do it, Sean? On the 4th, the 25th of March, April. What was it? April. And that was about top tips for writing for the web. So you can watch that back or share it with your colleagues. And then, yeah, so I'm always delighted, folks. I'm always amazed that we get such a great pool of people to come to these webinars. So it's always nice to do a little bit of networking. So if you fancy, just in the chat box, just say, hi, my name is Sean. I work in NALA, National Adult Literacy Agency. I do this. I'm a plain English editor, and I'd like to learn this about, plain English or literacy or writing for print. So just kindly introduce yourselves in the chat. That would be great. In fact, one message, folks. Top tip is that if you press Shift and Enter when you're writing a message in Teams chat, it will give you a line break. So if you just press Enter, it'll send the message. So just kindly introduce yourselves in the chat, and that'll, yeah, just be a nice way to warm us all up. Thank you, Jim, for kicking us off. Also, folks, in the spirit, yeah, so if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. That would be good. There's also a questions and answer box, folks, which helps us because the chat can be very full of lots of thoughts. It can be very, very fast running. But if you want to post a question, you can put it in the question and answer box, and then I'll know that you have a question. I'll keep an eye on that, and I'll keep an eye on the chat, and it'll help us out. Yeah, hopefully either save them for the end or talk about them when they're relevant. What's also nice, folks, is when you're giving a presentation, as you know, is being able to see people. So if you fancy, what would I say? If you fancy giving me a bit of an audience to look at, because I'm being a bit more engaged, then just say yes to camera in the chat, and then Derv or myself will find you, give you the power to turn on your camera, and then you'll see like an icon giving you the power to turn on your camera, and you can do that, and then we'll be able to see you. So if you fancy being seen, helping me out, and being a bit more engaged, then you can volunteer to turn your camera on. Cool. Okay. Thank you so much. Lovely. So the plan for the webinar, folks, is we're doing this webinar online, and here we are on Teams, and we live in a different world after the pandemic. We live in an age of generative AI and large language models. First question I want to ask you is what are you writing for print? What are we writing for print nowadays still? Then I'm going to ask you what makes a good leaflet or print publication. So, I want to ask you what you're actually doing in print, then what makes a good version of it. And then I'm just going to look at some recent examples that I've come across I think are really strong. And then we're going to look at okay, what's strong about them and how can we improve them. So we'll look at things that are good practice and things that maybe need a bit more work. And then we'll look at examples from the group. So thanks to everyone sending examples. It was very interesting because I asked for print materials, but I got like newsletters or letters to the public. So I'm just thinking, are people still writing for print as much as they used to? But so we'll look at examples that came in, which is very helpful for us. And when we do that, folks, we're doing it with respect. We're doing it to learn together. Thank you so much. Every point is constructive. Just keeping an eye on the chat. Lovely people posting things in there. That is good. Yeah, so we'll take a break now, folks, from the introductions, which is great. Okay, and the first question I want to know is just what do you write for print? So just put one or two things that you still write for print, just in the chat box. What are we still writing for print in your job? Just put that in the chat box for me. So lots of things coming in. So Jill's working on a booklet for class sets for schools, annual reports, leaflets, learning materials, information for parents, posters, flyers, it's promotional brochures, customer service reports, information leaflets. Yeah, very, very good, folks. So keep doing that. So like I was thinking about print communications. I think it's the letters. Letters are still quite popular with government departments and especially government departments. Um, and then the HSE, the organizations do a lot of information leaflets, like so we're still doing them. Then the kind of formal reports, annual reports, statements of strategy, and then guidelines, documents, handbooks for clients and students, and then maybe print versions of forms. Um, yeah, so I'll have a look through the chat, folks, and see if there's anything. Yeah, circulars, Maureen. Oh my God, circulars. Um, yeah, I think we're putting a lot there. I don't know what MOL is. You'll have to tell me what that is. Guides for library users and staff. Uh, yeah, okay. So we're covering all the bases there. So just many different types of communications there, folks. But what we're going to focus on today, I suppose, is leaflets and print materials and kind of reports. Because there's so much there. I was thinking, let's do something that's really hard or kind of formal. I was thinking like reports. Let's look at some examples of reports, and then let's look at some examples of leaflets. Okay, but let's start with leaflets because they're the most kind of customer-facing ones. They're the ones we want to try to, really win people over with. So just here's a question for you folks. Like, what makes a good leaflet? Imagine you're going to the plowing championship. Okay, I go to plowing championship myself, and it's one of those very face-to-face events, and you might be doing a lot more face-to-face events or showcases. But like your leaflet is just like your way to kind of get your foot in the door to talk to someone. You're gonna give them like your kind of sales pitch if you like, and then they're gonna walk away with it, and they're gonna like maybe share it with their family, share it with their friends, or just think about it. So like what makes a good leaflet? Just put some ideas in the chat for me. So just imagine the plowing championships, you're trying to, get your message across. What makes a good leaflet that will back up your message? Yeah, try to be really specific. So easily readable, that's good. But what makes something easily readable? Thank you, Mary. Lovely. Just gonna read a couple of these. I like your point there, Jill. Plain and simple English, but enticing at the same time. Yeah. Maureen, eye-catching but not too text-heavy. Lots of white space. Nice colors and pictures. Clear, concise information is relevant to the needs. Yeah. Lovely. No jargon. No jargon. Yeah. So a lot of things coming through. There's not too much text. So I think English is a way to help us, say more with less. That's kind of what someone said in the training session once. I kind of stole it. Say much with less. Not too much graphics either. Yeah, being minimal, being impactful. Okay, lovely. So all those things are very relevant, folks. So for me, it's like supports the message your organization. Like the organization, you have too many messages, can be quite confusing. But like, what's our message? What are we trying to get across? We want to provide an overview of services, but maybe do we want to go into too much detail? It's like what's enough detail? Helpful, essential advice. We don't overwhelm our reader with too much detail. That's the next point. Provide links to further information. So we have to be clear about where we're, sending people to. For more information, is it a phone line? Is it like a photograph of a person they can call? So how do we kind of make that connection? And then, or is it a website? And then, the design supports rather than takes away from the message. Sometimes I see leaflets that have no design, and that's an interesting choice. And the ones that have too much design. So you want to have like a strong concept that's kind of that doesn't take away from the message. So that's just some ideas, and your ideas are excellent as well, folks. So like, what can help us like achieve all the things you're talking about in the chat box and things I've mentioned there? Well, at a high level, it's good to know, folks, that there is a new plain language standard that was published in 2023. I know it sounds very dry. It's actually a big thing as part of the plain language movement to know that like in your organization that plain language is not just like some what I say formless thing, and it's not like there is a level of subjectivity to it, but there are like governing principles, and they come from the ISO. And the ISO, as you know, has like a bit of authority because it's important part of our lives, keeping us safe. This is a voluntary standard, meaning that organizations and government departments and governments can choose to adopt it. So there's a lot of work going on to kind of develop that more and help organizations and people to implement it. But for me, folks, the four beautiful principles, I call the magic acronym within the ISO standard is fur. Okay, so next time you're petting your cat or your dog, think about fur and think about plain language. Okay, because when we're using plain language or plain English, what we're doing is we're making information easy to find. Okay, so in your leaflets or your print publication, you want to make the information easy to find because people aren't reading linearly. They're looking for the information relevant to them, not reading from like A to Z. They're looking for the thing that's relevant to them. So people can find the information And then when they can find it, they can understand it, so I can actually find the information, then I can read it, I can absorb it, I can think about it. And then after you've understood it, hopefully you can use it. So like, why are you telling me this? You're telling me this so I can make important life decisions. Is it about my health? Is it my education? Is it my finances? Is it about like applying for something? So those are the things you need. And then relevance. So you're always making sure it's relevant to the reader. So you really should start with relevance, but get the acronym and cheat a little bit. So FIR, so make information easy to find, easy to understand, easy to use, and then make it relevant. So I think those 4 principles are helpful and memorable, hopefully. And I want you thinking about them when we're looking at examples in the training session or in this webinar. Yeah, so that's kind of the big principles for me, folks. And then like reference guides. So I mean, I probably share this every time I do a webinar, but because it's so great. So like if you're looking for like a comprehensive guide about like writing for the public, I really would encourage you to check out the National Disability Authority's excellent toolkit. It's called the Customer Communications Toolkit for Services to the Public. Covers written, spoken, and signed, and digital communications. And it's one of the best in class, folks. So I'd encourage everyone, and I'll send you links after the training session. So don't worry about that. But that's really one of the best around and has great advice on document design. So you know that's it's a great place to go when you're not sure about something. It's quite long, but like I say, if you read like 10 pages a day for 2 weeks, you'll have read it all. Thank you, Derv. Lovely. Another great place to go, folks, is from, I think it's from Canada, and it is Accessibility. It's a practical handbook on accessible graphic design. So this is a little bit, let's say, more complicated, but it's a really, really good one. So I'm not a graphic designer, but sometimes I have to work with graphic designers, or I have to like design something in Canva, and it's good to know what good practice is. And this goes through all the different principles. So it's kind of a practical handbook for graphic design for people who aren't especially trained in graphic design. If you're not trained in graphic design, I think you can develop the skills. You can use AI if you want to, and then you might be working with designers. So it's good to know things they're looking at, because there's a bit of like jargon there. Semantic structure. What does that mean? Well, they explain what it means. Typographic accessibility. Well, making sure that the fonts and things we use are accessible. Yeah. So it'll kind of give you a bit of a steer on those things. Lovely. Okay. So they're the kind of reference guides, folks, that I encourage you to like, save, share, be able to refer to. They'll deepen your knowledge. And then for, as a rubric in this training session, I'm going to think about the top 6 tips. So again, I use these a lot in training sessions. So you might be tired of them, but I find them very effective. So the first one is like, just imagine your readers and speak directly to them. So much of what we do in our work, folks, is just like trying to, win people's attention and then win their trust and, get them to, buy into our message, whatever it is. So like the more directly you speak to people, the more you're able to achieve that. So it's like, imagine your readers, speak directly to them. Sometimes the bigger the organization, the bigger the government departments, the more abstract they are, the more further away they are from like the realities of people's lives, the more they talk about like applicants or, clients or service users. But when you're, writing a web page or writing a leaflet, try to use the you, try to use the we. Next one is using the active voice. So this can be a bit complicated, folks, but it doesn't have to be. The active voice is often contrasted with the passive voice. If I give you a sentence that's in the passive voice, like the funding was cut, that's the passive voice, okay? So not a great sentence. The funding was cut. You might even say the funding was cut by the government. Okay, that's the passive voice because we're leading with the funding and then we're saying who did it at the end, or we're not saying it. That's the passive voice. Can you put that sentence in the chat box, folks, in the active voice? So the funding was cut by the government. Put that in the active voice. That means just start with who did it. Thank you, Tara. So you see why, folks, the government potentially would want to begin a sentence with the government cut the funding because, they don't take responsibility for it. It's a bad news story. No one wants to be associated with bad news. So the funding was cut, just a fact. But yeah, that's an example of, maybe a negative example of a passive voice. Passive voice can be also very useful when you say like, say 5,000 new homes were built in County Meath last year. So that's kind of just telling you the results. The project was completed on time. We don't care who did it, we just care the project was completed. So we'll look at that as it comes up, active voice and passive voice. We'll talk about using everyday words, the words of your readers, and cut jargon and explain technical words. One of my other mantras for this, folks, is cut the fluff and explain the stuff. Meaning, in all our work, there's always going to office speak that we we kind of naturally fall into as people who work in offices or work in our particular industry, you know? So whether it's like opt out, you know, things like that. What I say, we will endeavor to, you know? So it's kind of these kind of office speak that we use. Can we cut that? And then when we cut those things, then we can explain the real things. So say you're working in the DSP, the Department of Social Protection, you're talking about job seekers benefits. You're going to have to say job seekers benefits, but you're going to have to say like what is how you apply, you know, what are the entitlements, things like that. So you have to kind of decide what's the real stuff, explain it, and cut the unnecessary stuff. Keeping sentences short, that's a big thing as well. 15, 20 words. And then using the inverted pyramid writing. So this is a crucial one, folks, and it kind of goes back to your readers. Think about yourself when you're reading like a newspaper or when you're listening to the radio or you're kind of getting information. Like the journalists will usually give you the top level and say what's happening, you know, what's happening across the world or what's happening in a particular area, what's the latest thing that's happening. Then they'll go into the further detail. That's kind of what we want to do as well. So it's like, what's our top message? Let's, you know, make sure that's clear and kind of repeat that message in different places and then make sure the detail is there so you can find it. But we're not going too much into detail. We're not starting with the statutory instruments, you know, 56, you know, says this. It's like, no one cares about what the statutory instrument is. Well, some people do, but they'll find it. Tell me what's happening and then tell me, you know, why or how or when. Tell me what's happening first. Good. Okay. So there's just top 6 tips to give us a bit of a framework, and I'll bang on about them. Oh yeah, last one, folks. I forgot this one. Next one is just like white space headings and bullets. So when you have a big piece of text, key thing to do is just to you know, break it up. So white space just makes it, you know, gives your eye kind of space to read the actual words. Headings help you scan to find things, and then bullets just break down the detail. You know, sometimes you'll see people put a bullet in front of like a 5-line paragraph. It's not really a bullet. It's more of it's more of a use a subheading. So we'll look at that in particular. Okay, talking about folks. Let's get into some real examples. Yeah, I don't want to start with that one because it's bothering me. I want to start with something that's a bit more practical. Yeah, so in my work, folks, I'm very lucky that people send me things and they ask me for my views on them. And uh, it just comes from experience and it comes from thinking about, you know, all the things we've looked at. Okay, so we were working with the HSC on this recent publication, and it was about the Stop Smoking gift voucher incentive scheme. Okay, so the Stop Smoking gift voucher incentive scheme, and then they had like 2 pages, maybe 4 pages, I should say 4 pages, kind of going into it. And the idea was to just to um, try to encourage people to stop smoking through this voucher scheme. Okay, so I thought that was interesting. So the first thing I thought about when they sent it to me was like, oh, this is really strong. This is really strong. I'm not sure about the color contrast though. What do you think, folks? Like about the white on the lime green? Easy or hard? What do you think about that in the chat box? The white on lime green. Anyone? Not sure. Yeah, hard to read. Yeah. So, like, I'm not a designer, but I'm thinking, okay, is there another color scheme? Sometimes they're locked into their color schemes because Quick.ie use that lime green and they decided to use that. Um, yeah, but like white on lime green just it's quite hard to read. So I asked them, could you have a go at another one? They did. They kind of came back with this one. I'm thinking, okay, so they've used different branding colors, and for me, it adds a bit more clarity. You know, maybe other people don't like it, but for me, I just like white on lime green just does not work. I think it has such a strong reaction for people. Um, so yeah, so that was my first suggestion to them, and then what I want to do, folks, is get you to work next. Okay, so I think that what we're going to look at is very, very strong, but there are ways we can improve it. Okay, and that's what we're always trying to do. We're always just trying to think like what's strong about something and what are ways we can improve it. Okay, so if you take a look at this is the first page and the second page, and there's a third page that goes into more detail, but just for our purposes, we'll look at this. Just take your time, folks, to read it. Okay, give yourselves a minute or two to read it. Read it a couple of times because you have to analyze it. So read it, you know, 2, 3 times, and then what's strong about it? Put 2 things in the chat, and then any suggestions, put them in the chat as well. I'll be quiet now. Let you focus. What are some strong things, and what are some things we can do to improve it? Put them in the chat. Yeah, I'd love to hear some voices, folks, if you fancy. So, Tara, you make a really good point there about the research paragraph. Do you fancy unmuting and then you can speak and we can just hear another voice rather than just my voice all the whole time? So let me find Tara.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead, Tara.
I was just thinking that, if I was reading that, like it first talks about the research,
Mm,
but if I was thinking about quitting smoking and I wanted money for it, I wouldn't care about that research part. I'd want to know, well, where's the incentive straight away?
yeah, I think that's very reasonable, folks. That's kind of the first thing I think about as well. So, like going into the research and just ask the question to Tara while she's there. Like who, we talk about being user centric, and then there's organization centric. So, but who do they putting at the center there in that paragraph? Would you say in the first couple of paragraphs?
Like they were putting like organizations or maybe researchers or like the maybe doctors even to give this leaflet out.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it. So, like, it depends who our audience is. Is the audience the person themselves? Is it the stop smoking professional or the healthcare professional? But can we do both? And I think we can do both. And I think we can just get to the main points quicker. So if we take Tara's point, folks, I think like there's such like someone used the word inciting earlier in a good way. And I think like what's the number one thing there that's going to make you stand up and think, oh my God, that's great. I'm going to sign up for it. What's the thing that's going to really grab your attention? Maybe it's different for different people, but there's one thing for me. Yeah, that's it, Ryan. The money, the 400 quids. And I don't think it's being, pandering or it's dumbing down or it's anything like that. I think it's just like, this is our offer. And, maybe we just get it in a bit earlier. Very, very good. Um, Lovely. So that's the main thing I want to think about, folks. And then, like, there's a couple other things I want you to think about. So we talked about the first couple of paragraphs. Do I qualify for this game? So they're using these questions, which I think are very good. Do I qualify for this game? You'll notice it's an I question, which is great. And then we have here, how does the scheme work? So I think like that's a good question, but we could ask maybe like refine it a little bit and maybe get the I in. So have a go in the chat box, folks, and like you'll have to change it a little bit, but like, what does the person actually care about? If you pique their interest, like, how does the scheme work? What's a more impactful way, or what's a more dramatic way? Yeah, that's it. How can I apply? What do I need to do? How can I get the 400? What do I need to do? Yeah, that's the idea. And then, folks, if you look at that paragraph there, okay, I think for me, there's something trying to get out of that paragraph. When I say that, I mean, I think we can do this paragraph in another way rather than just text. What do you think? Bullet points, even more than bullet points. Yeah, steps. Yeah, I think steps. Like step one, do this. Step two, do this. Step three, do this. Like, I think the more we can break things down into steps, it kind of makes things a little bit easier for people. You can see the journey. I know journey is such a cliche, folks. I'll try to say it just the once. So yeah, and then if we look at the right-hand side, folks, I think there's a little bit of an issue between this part at the top and the part at the bottom. Can anyone spell out what I'm trying to say? What do I mean about the issue between the top and the bottom part there? Yeah, I think that's it, Carmel. Yeah. Repeated text, exactly. Like in a leaflet, you don't have that much space. So if your repetition is intentional, that's great. But I think repeating this stuff is not ideal. You want to repeat maybe the 400s. Um, so I think maybe just combine them. Just combine them. Uh, Very, very good. And then the last task I have for you folks, it's actually the title itself. Okay, so like we are in this example, we are the HSC, we have to be professional, but at the same time, I think Stop Smoking Gift Voucher Incentive Scheme is not the catchiest kind of title. So even if we have to use it, can we give it a subheading or a subtitle that's gonna like, be memorable? Think about all the different, Tesco, every little helps. I mean, that's a fantastic, little slogan. Exactly. You're way ahead of me, folks. Anything else you suggest? I'll give you a minute in the chat box. There we go. Very good, Tara. Any other suggestions, folks? Anyone else? Any other budding copywriters out there? So I'm just thinking about the person who's at the, plowing championships or in the health clinic, and it's just like, oh, have you heard about the stop smoking gift voucher incentive scheme? Like, I think your things there, like quit for coin, stop smoking saver, stop smoking make money. That's probably a very good one, Irene. Yeah. So could we change the title of it, or could we actually have like a subtitle? I like your one, Michelle. That stop smoking reward scheme. That works as well. Yeah, lovely. So the idea, you quit, we pay. I like it, Suzanne. But that's just the way I want you to think, folks. Like you can reject them, but like even if you came up with 10 different ideas and like, okay, what's the best? If you're using a thing like Copilot or ChatGPT, we won't do it today, but that can be very good at giving you, well, lots of very bad ideas very quickly, but might be one that you can actually use. Okay, very good. Lovely. Okay, I'm gonna move on from this, folks. Is there anything else we can say about it? Like the graphics, like, what do people think about using like kind of cartoon kind of characters in leaflets? Um, I think it can be useful, and I know why people use it because like getting image releases and using real people can be a lot of work, and there's lots of consent involved. Um, but yeah, is it worth it? Real images preferable? Yeah. Cartoons can be childish. Yeah. These ones are irrelevant. Yeah, it's hard to make them relevant. They're just kind of, a person using their Jedi mind trick to get money or capture money, and this one just pointing. So yeah, we're trying to make them really relevant. I think maybe we make them a bit more relevant here. They do break up the text, but real ones can make a big difference. Okay, lovely, lovely, lovely. Okay, so that's a leaflet, folks. Very, very good. Okay, I think that was an example of like good practice that we could improve. And then when we had a go at working with the HSC, and we're working in collaboration with them, and it's their leaflets. So at the end of the day, they call the shots. But like they wouldn't budge from using the research thing at the start, but I did get them to kind of put the 400 further up. We kind of broke down, do I qualify, into a bit more. We did the how do I get started, so we broke it up into points. They wouldn't change this because I think they'd already had the graphic done and they wanted to put it in. They want to change the graphic, so there you go. So okay, they broke it down a little bit into two columns, make it a bit smaller. Yeah, so you do what you can. I think it's still very strong. Um, so yeah, no, I wish them well the scheme, and it sounds great. I mean, €400 for, yeah, hope it works very well, helps people. Good stuff. Okay, so that's the leaflet, folks. I want to do a kind of hard one with you, which is a report, because we mentioned reports, folks. And in my job, I'm very lucky that people will ask me to look at stuff. So I'll show you this one. I'll show you the cover first. This was from the European Commission, and it's about a European water resilience strategy. So this morning I was thinking this is a bit of a dry topic, ha 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 ha, but I'm gonna try it anyway with you. Derv is laughing. Thank you, Derv. So yeah, so I was doing a kind of training session with them, and we came across, and they would work. The team I'm working with would be like kind of editors and proofreaders who would work with people who are writing reports like this, and would try to help them put into plain language. So kind of my job, but kind of in Europe. So yeah, I'm not going to go through this in detail, folks, but I'm gonna like just I'm gonna ask you to think about like what's missing here. Okay, so we have the title page there. It's in all caps, and then we get straight into the introduction. Okay, and I'm just gonna like slide through it really, really quickly. So the introduction, then we have like section 2, the key objectives here, and then we have all this kind of dense text, right? And then here we have these flagship actions in a table. Okay, that's good. Then they have another one of the key actions. And then at the end of all this kind of dense text, they have like a table with all the actions. Okay, full list of actions. And there they are there in this kind of very condensed box. Okay. Yeah, that's the big one, Laura Lee, no index. Like, and we have a 28-page report here that people are going to have to, make important decisions for, Europe and like our lives based on it. And by not including a table of contents, we're just making it, so much harder for people to actually find what they need. Yeah, so that's just it's a small thing, but it's a big thing. And then David, yeah, exactly, an executive summary, can you tell me what's in this so I get a sense of the geography? But what it does, it kind of has this introduction, which is kind of very what would be the words? Just like a speech. It's like the big head honchos in the European Commission are giving a speech, and we that's good, but help me work with the report. The font isn't the easiest to read. Yeah, so they're using a kind of what we would call maybe I'm not sure what font it is, but it looks like a serif font. So we're so used to reading sans serif fonts nowadays on screen that it looks a bit hard. Could have more line spacing. Yeah, it looks like a research paper. Exactly. So if you're working on a report, you have to put so much time and effort into the text itself. And the writing here is actually it's very, very good. It's very, very strong. But by not doing those little kind of they seem like added extras, but they're not. They're essentials. Table of contents, maybe a couple of images, clear signposting to the objectives and the actions, and make a big difference. So that's just something I wanted to point out. Okay, so that's one thing. And I'm doing a bit of work at the moment with our friends in Citizens Information, and they have they have a social policy and research team there. Okay, so if I just open up this one, folks, for you, and I'm bringing this up because I do lots of training sessions, lots of different organizations, and people will send you their submissions to the governments, and they'll be very similar to what we looked at with the European Commission one, which is just dense text, dense text, dense text. And that's good, but you have to remember that people are very, very busy. So how can we make things look a bit more attractive? Well, this is their Citizens Information Insights series. I might just download this, folks, for a second, so it's actually easier for us to scan through. I already have it downloaded, but download one more time. Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, just if you look at that, folks, I know it seems very simple, but compared to what we looked at in the European Commission one, what do you gain from having the table of contents? That's a question for you in the chat. What do you gain by having that there? So it seems basic, folks, but just that principle of making information easy to find. So, I'm busy. I want to know about this scheme, how housing adaptation grants and how the SEA grants have been used and things about it. But here we have the introduction context. I go through it, data overview. I can see them, key issues, conclusion recommendations. So I can find what I need, and then I can refer to it. So it might seem like a small thing, but don't forget to put table of contents in it. And sometimes people aren't sure about putting table of contents in, and it just goes in your Word. Make sure you're using the headings. And they have an executive summary here. You'll see they're using some short paragraphs. And then they have their recommendations, clearly numbered, and they're trying to use bold to kind of bring out the key points. We could do more with that, but we're working on that. So you can see they have their recommendations. Oh, sorry, not recommendations. What are they? They are 5 broad areas of concern. They're the areas of concern. Exactly. So maybe we could have a heading there. And then they have the recommendations. So they're front loading the key things. They're front loading the key things, which is very, very, very strong. So, and then they have helpful infographics. So these are things not to discount, having, key information, using one graphic, using a number. And what I like about the numbers, folks, is, well, you tell me what they've done to the numbers. Yeah, what am I suggesting they've done to the numbers a little bit? They line up nicely. Yeah, they're bolded. Make them larger. There's one more thing, 95,000. I would say that's probably rounded as well. It might be 94 or something else. Yeah, rounded them off. Yeah, so there's a lot to be said for high levels information, just rounding off things for plain numbers and for things like that. Okay. So yeah, I just encourage you folks, if your part of your job is writing a report and you're looking for a good practice to follow, one of the places you can look to is Citizens Information, Social Policy Team, their Social Policy Series, and they have lots of reports like that. And they follow, good practices. And yeah, sign up and you'll learn things as well. Okay, that is those two things. That's the kind of report stuff that I wanted to cover. It was kind of very hard stuff. How much time do we have? 25 minutes. Okay, so what I want to do, folks, is move to looking at some examples from ourselves. Okay, we're going to look at some examples from ourselves. And when we're doing that, folks, we're doing it with a lot of respect. We're doing it with, yeah, just respect. So people will keep that in mind. So the first one is from our friends in Acquired Brain Injury Ireland. Yeah, so I'd love if the person from Acquired Brain Injury Ireland, whose name gets in my head now, I'm sorry, if they could put their hand up and then maybe we could actually ask them to speak and introduce it and tell us a bit about what they want this leaflet to achieve. That would be so helpful if they're there. There you are, Aoife. Uh, Hi, Aoife. Do you fancy unmuting? And I might turn your camera on as well. If you don't have to
I
have your camera on.
can.
That's
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Hi, Aoife.
And I can turn my camera on, and it's just a forewarning that it is absolute. Oh no, I can't actually.
Not
That's
to worry.
disabled. But anyway, that's no problem because I'm wearing a top. I'm very warm in my attic room, so I probably don't look appropriate for
No, there
for
you
a
are.
big
There you are.
webinar.
It's good to see you, Aoife.
Thanks.
So tell us a bit well, tell us a bit about Acquired Brain Injury Ireland, and then like what do you want this kind of leaflet and how would you to achieve and how would you use it?
So this is, I suppose, our primary our primary kind of form of information. This is our main leaflet. It's a trifold, so it's it's that kind of trifold format. So the information is probably across 2 different pages. We use it as a general information flyer that we distribute to the general public at any events that we might be at within our local services. And I suppose, yeah, as I say, it's kind of the key piece of information that we use to try to get across as much information about the organization as possible. To tell a little bit about what we do. We provide services to people that have acquired a brain injury, how to contact us if people want more information about those services, and a little bit of information for people about what acquired brain injury is and how it can impact on people's lives.
Okay.
So already looking at it, I'm mortified because I'm so busy, So looking at some of the previous examples, I can see by contrast that it's really busy. So I'd be interested in your view and other people's views as well on how we could make that more accessible.
Yeah, so thanks so much, Eva. So I emailed Eva and said I think this is good practice, and I want to share it with the group, and just think like, okay, what's strong here? There's so much stuff that is strong here, and then any suggestions we have, because I have a couple of suggestions, but what are your suggestions? Like we learn so much when we look at things as a team. So that's the front page, folks. So have a read of that. Okay, I probably have been reading it, but have a read of the front page, and then I'm going to ask you to read the kind of middle parts, and then we'll come back to reading the kind of back 2 pages. Okay, so have a read of the front page on the right. That's just that part there with the image of the gentleman. Okay, and we'll come back to that. So now I want you to take just a few minutes, folks, to read through the kind of main part of it. And it's the same question, like what's strong? What's strong about it? Put yourselves in the shoes of, the person, the brain injury, or their loved one, or their family member who's like, dealing with it, helping them. So what's strong and what can we improve? Put some suggestions in the chat. Take your time. Don't rush your suggestions because it's good to think about it. Put them in the chat. Great work, folks. Really good feedback coming in. So I'm gonna like for you, I'll copy and paste that into a document because I know it can
That
be
would
very
be brilliant.
overwhelming.
And I'm
Yeah.
really grateful for all the suggestions because we're going to be working on this soon anyway. So it's the good time to get some feedback.
Yeah. So really interesting ones there. Start with the positive things. I'll just read them out because there's so much there, folks. So the headings people are talking about, they help you navigate, and there's good color contrast there. Lots of bullet points, lots of white space, lots of use of that magic word we. Um, yeah. Is there much you there? Maybe it's harder to get the you in because like, but there's lots of we definitely there. Um, great quotes. Like I think the quotes are also very illustrative. I love like authentic things. So like we do have authentic parts with the image on the front cover, and we have the quote there, and we have some illustrative stats. Yeah, and there's a bit the numbers aren't too hard, you know. So 11,120. So they're good. Yeah, and then the other suggestions people had. That's an interesting one, a kind of one about the jagged edges, about being a bit sharp. Yeah, I didn't think about that, but that's something to consider. Um, Lucia's point about more U language. Um, yeah, so that's a good point as well, Isabel. Isabel, I'd love to hear you say that aloud if you fancy. So I'm gonna find Isabel Ashley and give her the power to unmute. Just tell that point of it, Isabel, if you fancy.
Hey, hi everyone. Yes, I noticed that the contact us information is in two different places. I think it's potential because there's contact information there with the referral, find out more about our services. And then, yeah, there's another contact us here, but I wondered if that is for two different parts of it, maybe. Is this to help? And then the other side is for a referral, maybe for a family member or yourself.
Yeah, very interesting points. Yeah.
But yeah, yeah.
And then I think you made another point, the one that I saw, which was you think maybe some of it could be just cut back. Are you thinking cutting back some of the contents or putting
Yeah,
online?
yeah.
What would you want to bring out a bit more? Like what would you want to give more prominence to?
I could say what I would remove from it, and
Okay, yeah,
but maybe things. I mean, it's good to have your vision, your
yeah,
mission. I think maybe pick one of them, have sort of like a sentence that engages people. Um,
yeah. That's
yeah,
I was thinking something similar. Like I
mm,
remember seeing an old slide, and it was like you have to remember that like our organization is not the center of the universe. I don't think that's what it's doing, but it's like our mission and our vision. Again, it is a general leaflet, so maybe we need to have that. But I think can we cut that back a little bit and give more prominence to like because there's hard stuff here like home and community neuro rehabilitation.
mhm,
Maybe like develop that a tiny bit like let's like clinical support, including psychology, occupational therapy, and social work. Like, yeah, I mean, it might be change the leaflet a little bit, but like those are that's the stuff, if you get me. And I'm not saying our mission, our vision is the fluff. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like maybe we need to give a bit more prominence to the actual hard things. Well, good. Like digital assistive technology. Maybe give me one or two examples. Because like digital assistive technology might not mean very much to me, but like a particular type of digital assistive technology might actually resonate with me. Like an example.
mm.
Um, good stuff. Anyone else, folks, want to jump in? Just raise your hand, and if you want to have like a point, and then you can jump in. Anyone else want to any suggestions burning in their brain? Yeah, Eva asked a question there. Who's leaflet for the general public or people with an ABI want support? Um, I think Eva, you said it's kind of trying to do both, or mostly for general public, or
It's possibly trying to do too much. Like it's for people who might want to donate. It's for people who might want to know about the services that we provide. It's people who might have brain injury themselves or family members. So possibly it's trying to do too much. And part of that look is down to resources, and we only have so
mm,
much to create so many things. But I think it's a really good point, and would certainly benefit from a slimming down. Yeah, being more to the point for sure.
lovely. Okay, thanks, Eva. Yeah, so we did a good bit there, folks. Just to point out some like finicky design things. Like the plain English guidelines are try to avoid all capitals because the thing about all capitals is that it makes every letter look the same size. So I think for titles it can be okay. But for long pieces of text, it makes things a bit harder. So I would generally not do that. If you look at some of the text, it's kind of justified. This paragraph over here, we also accept referrals. Like using justified text there creates these kind of large spaces, which can be, unsightly, but also hard for people with dyslexia. So it's good to use left align, or if you're using justified, make sure you have like there's a box you can tick, use like equal line spacing. There's a lot of italics being used, and italics, I think it's the same thing. Like we don't suggest using because it just makes it a tiny bit harder for your brain. But like you're trying to give a bit of variety to the language or to the design, but maybe use it sparingly. Like our services include, like maybe you could have like a little text box here or like a little colored box rather than like italics, because italics just distorts letters, makes it a bit harder. We're using right align down here. I know I'm really, yeah, but like right align, just because our eyes so naturally read from left to right that when we use right align in the brain injury survivor here, it just kind of like your eye fizzes around. So that's why it's not great practice. Yeah, but I think it's so strong. So I think it's really, really good. Yeah, okay, we'll wrap this up, folks, just by looking at the back page. Okay, so yeah, just so we do it thoroughly. So have a read of the back page there. And then any more suggestions, welcome in the chat. What's anything there you'd like to bring out or suggest? Jill, do you want to make a point? Let me give you the mic. Fancy, Jill, you can.
Sorry, I couldn't find my mic. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Jill.
I was just wondering, for contact details, where do they normally go on kind of advertisement situations like this for contact details, phone numbers, emails? Where would they normally go? Are they front and back, or do you leave them on one section, or is it? Do you have a determined space for that information?
I'm a big front and back person, because I think at the top you introduce it, people forget it, and they have it there again. So I think contact us, like it's such essential information. Like what do you want people to do? You want to get them in contact. So I think repeating it at the top and the bottom, and even in the middle, if we're relevant, can be fine. So it's one of those things I think, like we mentioned it 3 times there. I know someone mentioned that maybe it's maybe a bit confusing, but I think we have the same number. We don't have different numbers. I think it's one of those things you can stand to repeat, because it's yeah. I mean, if more than three, yeah, did you rule like more than three? Like you have to think like maybe it's too much, but yeah, front and back, and then have it in the body naturally. I think that's actually works quite well.
Okay, thank you.
Lovely. Okay. Yeah, that was an interesting point, that the shattered. We rebuild lions that have been shattered by brain injury. And when I read that, I had a bit of like a reaction, because it was like, and maybe you wanted to have a reaction, like, and that's the thing they're going for, like shattered. But is it one of those things is it too negative? Am I being too woke by saying it's too negative? Impacted, affected, changed by brain injury? It's just one of those things that I was thinking about when I was reading it. I wonder if it struck anybody else. There we go. That's just something to think about. On a more practical way, folks, just the call to action, how you can help. Okay, so how you can help. So please support our fundraising efforts and help us to continue to rebuild the lives that have been shattered by an acquired brain injury. Very, very good. Contributions can be made. So that's fine. That's an example of like the passive voice. Okay, contributions can be made online by post. You could, maybe turn it around a little bit and be more active. Any suggestions on how we can make that a bit more active? I mean, money and Irish people, sometimes we're a bit with the word indirect about money. But any suggestions about like just we could turn that sentence around or make it a bit more engaging? Yeah, exactly. That's the principle. Like you can make if you'd like to support us, you can. Yeah, that's what I mean by the active voice. Passive voice there, it is quite concise. Contributions can be made, so there's a concision there. Or you can contribute by, or you can contribute, that kind of thing, the way to do it. Rebuild a life today. Ooh, very good, Ryan. I like that. Be part of the change. Yeah. So yeah, kind of get the vision parts and also active voice. Very, very good. And just like because I raised it, Suzanne makes the point about Shattered is super eye-catching and unique to the organization. Fair enough. Very, very good. Thank you, Fiona. Yeah, that is a good point. Yeah, so we're just like you're just thinking about those questions, folks. It's just like asking those questions, and then like you'll know your service users. You'll know, is that word effective? Do you want to be like a little bit, shocking? Maybe that's shattered is the word. So there we go. We've talked about that. Lovely. Okay. So 8 minutes left, folks. Like, thank you so much to Aoife and the team for putting that together and for sharing it with us. Just like a round of applause for Aoife and for yourselves, folks. I'm just gonna do that for
Thanks,
the very
everybody.
the very cringe things there. Thank you so much. Okay. So the other things that people sent me in, folks, were not so much leaflets as and reports as just other stuff. Yeah. So we have a few minutes. I'm just gonna like go through it if that is okay. So this was from I think Canwen in Cavan Monaghan. So if you fancy unmuting Canwen, that'd be good. Yeah, tell us a little bit about what this kind of leaflet is, or not leaflet, but a kind of poster. Where are you promoting it? How are you using it? How'd you put it together? So here we go. I'll find you. You raise your hand. I can do it like this. Here we go.
Sorry, I couldn't unmute there for a second.
Here you go.
Now, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. Good to
Right.
hear you, Cameron. It's always good to hear you.
Grand. Okay. So this is a project funded by Adult Literacy for Life, and the aim is really sort of social smartphone classes. So with more emphasis on the social side than usual. They get nicer refreshments, and the aim is that people will help one another as well as relying on the tutor. So it's to encourage kind of peer learning. So this is a graphic that went out on social media, but it had accompanying text. So there was far more detail in the text, which I hope was in plain language. But it would also potentially be used in printed things like newsletters with the text underneath. So it was really, it's something that could have been used in a number of different places.
And did you put it together yourself through Canva, or how did you put it together?
Yes, yeah, I put it together on Canva.
Fair play, yeah. I'm always amazed by people who can, so good design skills. Lovely. Thanks, Cameron. So yeah, it's the same thing, folks. It's like, what's strong about it? What can we learn from it? And then if you have any suggestions, put them in the chat. So I'll give you a minute or two, and then we'll have a chat. So just put your suggestions in the chat box. I think the power of getting 170 people to look at things, folks, is there's so many. People see other things that other people don't see, and it's so great. Yeah. A lot of people loving the photograph. Some people suggesting that the photograph doesn't focus on the technology enough. It's interesting. Yeah. But it's a real image, so it looks authentic anyway. Very practical questions there about do people have to bring anything? Maybe like a little instruction might be helpful. Okay. Again, we want to keep it short. That's an interesting one, Lucia. Short subtitle. Bite and brew. Yeah, because I was thinking Bite and Brew, it's like you're trying to build a brand identity. I think even like you see the learn to use technology among friends. I think if we gave that like a little bit more prominence, it wasn't a bullet point, and if that was a subtitle, I think that might be like Bite and Brew. Okay, that's what we're trying to. That's the identity, the brand identity we're trying to sell. What does it actually mean? It means learn to use technology among friends. It's there, but like maybe attach it more to the Bite and Brew. That's just what I think. Um, that's interesting, Dora. Yeah. Yeah, who's it for? It's actually, are we trying to target everyone or is it for older people? Yeah. Highlight the contact details a little bit more. Yeah. Maybe put them on, they're on separate lines, which is good. Yeah. a good point. Is the wordplay? I like the wordplay. I only actually got it now that you drew attention to it, with bytes being micro, like gigabytes, and then also being food. Only got it now. God. Okay, that's so again. So I'll put that in a little document, and I'll try to organize it into themes, and I'll send it to Canwin, and Canwin can, yeah,
Thank you.
Good stuff. Look, we got 3 minutes left, folks. So if you sent me on something and we didn't include it in the session, I'll send you some private feedback. But just in terms of keeping things on time, because Derv gives out to people when I go over time. So we'll do questions and answers in a second, folks. Maybe there'll be some questions that have emerged. But like just to do the selling stuff, if you're really interested in kind of plain language, folks, I really would encourage you to join the NALA Plain English Network. So what we do is we just connect with each other. We have events like this. We try to get guest speakers. So it's just like a community on LinkedIn. We've got 650 members. Do think about joining, and you can kind of stay up in touch with ourselves. And like, we are a community. We're here helping each other with different things. That'd be great. That shouldn't be there. That shouldn't be there. Yeah. So if you're interested in training sessions like this, folks, and you want to get more training, like we do personalized training for organizations, then we also do open training. So we got the next one's actually in September. You can, I think it's 110 for charities, 130 for private organizations. It's 3 hours long, but you can send in things. I'll give you feedback, and we have lots of interactive exercises. And there's like a voucher if you want to get some editing from ourselves in Nala. It's like 1 hour's worth of editing. You can do that as well. We have another webinar like this coming up in November. So the 21st of November, we have one about writing effective letters and emails. So if you have any samples for that, please do send them in. And then, folks, like Nala are kind of participating in the IB Community Fund. So if you fancy giving us a vote, I'll send you the link after the session. Please do give us a vote as a charity. You, I don't know, respect and admire. So please think about that. If you're working with adults, folks, and want to, if you're a tutor or and you want to, develop your skills as a tutor, we have our platform Learn with Nala, where you can, do lots of courses about literacy. Very good. And then I forgot to mention the other one, folks. I did have a slide on this, and I swear, Ken, I swear it was there, and someone deleted it. But recently we worked on, folks, an awareness course with our partners in Adult Literacy for Life, and we launched this e-learning course called Let's Talk About Plain Language. So it's a 90 minutes e-learning course, and you can share with your colleagues. The idea is just like spread the knowledge about plain language in an interactive e-learning course. So yeah, delighted to be part of that, and that was launched this week. So I'll send you a link to that. I'll stick around for any questions, folks. Thank you for your time. And thanks to Derv, and thanks to Aoife, and thanks to Cameron for the samples. But yeah, that's it for today. We finished on time. Huzzah. Have a nice day, folks. Enjoy the solstice. Lovely. So people will kind of drift away, and then we'll, if there's any final questions, we'll kind of we'll deal with them. There was one question while people are leaving about color contrast, and like what are good color contrasts, and like so just things that can help. So color contrast checker. So there's a couple of different color contrast checkers. So like if you were putting together branding guidelines, you could use the contrast checkers on things like WebAIM, and you can make sure that your color contrasts pass web accessibility standards. That's a good one. But if you're like me, folks, you like knowing when you like following the example of people who've done the thinking for you, and then you can kind of crib from them. So the HSC have had this big, huge rebrand. You're probably aware of it, where they've changed all their different their branding, and they're changing their centers, and they're changing from what am I trying to say? They're like they changed things up. Okay, so they have these branding guidelines, and in the branding guidelines they go through like how they use their logos, how they use their how to use photographs, how they use color schemes. So what I encourage you to do, folks, is if you're not sure about those kind of things, just like look at the HSC, because the HSC is one of the biggest organizations in the country, and they will give you good guidance. So if I just copy and paste that link, you'll see they cover things like imagery, tone of voice, plain language, and they have a thing there in colors as well. It's in there. So yeah, I kind of learned a lot from looking at the HSC. And the guides that I mentioned at the start are useful. The accessibility design and then the toolkit from the NDA. Perfect. I hope that answers that question. And then Maria, do you have a question? Feel free to unmute. I'll see if I can press the button. Maria Salome. Hi, Maria. Are you there?
Yes, sorry. No, I didn't do it on purpose. I didn't realize. Sorry.
That's okay, Maria. Perfect. Louise, do you have a question? I'll give you the mic. Hi, Louise. Are you there? Let me see. Yes, Louise has her hand up, but not sure if she's there.
There was a question in the Q&A
Oh, yes.
about what software was used to develop the Citizens Information Report. I think that was Louise's question.
Ooh,
If you know.
That is, I love when people ask me questions I should know, but I don't know. So I'll yeah, I have your email address, Louise, because you signed up for the register for the webinar. So I'll check with them and I'll ask them. And yeah, I'll get back to you. I mean, you can do a lot in words, and then I think they probably do. They do the draft in Word, and then when they're designing it, what do they do? It's a good question. I will check. Then Mary has another point there's a guide for recommended fonts and colors. Yeah, so hopefully answer that question with the HSE is one of the other examples. Lovely. I'm always disappointed when I can't answer a question, but what can you do, folks? I'll learn something when I research that. Cool. So I'm gonna bring things to an end, folks, because we're recording it and we're gonna put it on to YouTube. So yeah, have a nice day. And yeah, we're gonna just remove people from the meeting if they don't remove themselves, and then we'll thank you so much, folks. Like a pub closing, it's like, time please, folks. It was good, Derv, wasn't it?
Very good. Great start to the weekend.
Lovely. Okay. Thanks very much, folks. I am just gonna keep pressing the button. I'm gonna end things and do you want to have a chat separately? Is that okay, Derv? Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Derv.